I think Wei's been the cornerstone of RNG, in which all their success has kind of been built around in a lot of situations, just because of how strong he is when it comes towards the ganks, but also his smart jungle pathing. So I like that we're getting this early Lilia lock-in. It's interesting to see, though, Ali very quickly taking away this Gnar. Like, it is the most played for Xiaohu, but you leave yourself so vulnerable to counter picks. Like, Xiaohu is more than comfortable going for something like a Jace, a Camille, anything along these lines, and you can even go towards something like the Twisted Fate here for Cryin and play heavily into this pick style and playing towards that top side of the map.
See what they want to go for. Wei has looked very, very good on this Lilia pick. It's kind of been something that we've noticed with the top tier junglers in the LPL, that they've just been able to utilize this pick to its absolute fullest. And getting Ale onto the Gnar, it does take it away from Xiaohu. We saw in the B-roll and the clips that we were able to get on earlier today that is something that Xiaohu does tend to lean on quite a bit. You cannot count out that he'll have some kind of crazy counter, though, for something like that, as we look to see what they want to go for. Tristana could go mid, and it also could go to the bot lane. I would like to see it mid, though, considering they have the Lilia locked in as well.
Yeah, exactly. You've got that flexibility there, although as you say that, these are locked in, so won't be. Either way, though, in this bottom side of the map, the Tristana works really well, because one, it's that takeaway that we talked about from Light. Light loves this Tristana pick. It's been by far his best champion. But as well, it works really well against the Alistar, because you can't buffer that rocket jump, so then the Alistar can't get the headbutt pulverize combo off. So you've got a lot of safety now in this bottom lane, alongside the potential opportunity to go very, very aggressive. But it looks like Light is going to go back towards the Samira. Again, 11.3, so you still have a lot of safety when it comes towards this pick. And this kill lane, once again, for LNG, that they're looking to snowball through on the bottom side of the map.
Well, Light coming off of the back of a pentakill with the Samira, and that's going to be lingering in the backs of the minds of RNG. They will not be wanting to set that Samira up for success again. And that's why, we're waiting for the last kind of picks coming in right now. I'm surprised we haven't seen more bans towards Ming. The guy has been just on fire recently in the last few weeks. He was the MVP or a player of the week in week 6. So the guy has just been going from strength to strength to strength, and I like the fact that they put in the Rakan. It is something that has very, very strong engage into something like an Alistar, because he has just kind of in, out, nothing done, and you just get a nice little bit of harass down. So I like to see the respect given here by LNG.
And give some nice point and click CC for this Samira as well, which she really struggles against. But either way, for Ming, the problem I have with trying to bang out Ming is Ming just plays everything, right? It doesn't matter what the hell you want to go for. Ming is going to have an answer for it. Now, he has definitely favored the Alistar, 11 games of that, so won't be able to get his hands on it this time, but certainly still played like a lot of the Gragas. We could see something like the Set come in here. Like, there's a huge amount that you can still go for in this bottom side of the map, but with how aggressive both these bottom lanes are going to go, I imagine that they're going to basically fight fire with fire here and go for some sort of heavy engage tool, especially when you're looking at like Xiaohu not really going to be opting towards engage. You want to try and set up some sort of strong front line here for the front to back team fight that RNG have.
Well, the Rell's still there to be picked up. Rell into Alistar and Alistar into Rell are two of the most common kind of mirror matchups, I suppose you could say, as people just tend to swap the two of them. They both do very, very similar things. Jump in, be very tanky. You can be team fight orientated, you can be pick orientated. Both work for your composition. We'll see what the last one is here now. They're giving it to Xiaohu, and again, this is just echoing to what we were saying very, very early on at the start of the day, is that we tend to see RNG prioritize into the top side. They go with the Lucian because they have the Lilia jungle. They can diversify their damages. I love this.
Yeah, so it will be the Lucian going topside for a Xiaohu, and this is such a great matchup into the Gnar. And this is why I was surprised to see LA locking in this Gnar so early. Like, I kind of preferred where you have banned away enough in that top side that you're able to get away with it, or either you're taking it as a counter pick, but just knocking it in blind means you can go towards some of these picks like the Lucian, the Camille, the Jace. Like, there was plenty there that we had talked about, and they are going to take the Lucian now, and you still got that big engage tool coming in with the Rell, and you can still use Cryin as this pseudo engage tool as well. But certainly it gives really strong lanes across the board here for RNG that they will be looking to try and power through.
I look at these two compositions, and I'm looking at RNG, and I'm saying that not only do you have if you get snowballing, you can run away with it. Actually, might be Xiaohu going to... No, never mind. They're going to swap it. I had to halt myself for a second there. I was like, Tristana top? That doesn't sound right. But this looks like it for RNG. If they get ahead, they run away with it. Well, LNG, they're going to be looking for that more standard front-to-back teamfight jump in with the Gnar and the Alistar, try keep the Graves, the Ryze, and the Samira just kind of keeping off on the backside. So if RNG can keep LNG at an arm's distance, then they shouldn't really have too many issues around these kind of big objectives if they're able to get there first.
Yeah, certainly. And I think that the biggest thing here is that, like, you're looking at a composition from RNG that's very potent, but as you said, like kind of front to back. You can have that Rell provide some of the front line, but certainly at like kiting and trying to avoid what is a very, very short range composition coming through on LNG's side. So for LNG, I feel like the best way for them to try and play out this game is actually using those side lanes. Like Ryze is a nuisance in those side lanes. Gnar can do wonders if he can get ahead, but will struggle a little bit against the Lucian. But if you try to opt into these front-to-back fights, it becomes very difficult for Samira to try and find avenues in against the range that you have on RNG's side. Same when you look towards someone like the Ryze, you've got to try and use this portal, the ults from the Ryze creatively, if you want to have any hope of closing the gap onto RNG.
Well, we'll see what way this game plays out. RNG and LNG going toe-to-toe onto the Rift in game one of this best of three. See if RNG can continue to put pressure, to continue to look for that top spot in the LPL. If LNG got a surprise or two up their sleeves. The Jayos are back, my friend. They have returned. Nature is healing.
I mean, it's good to hear, right? I mean, I've missed the crowds, and I'm looking forward to actually like having one again for our playoffs, as long as everything kind of stays good. So that'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, it's nice to hear the crowds are back.
It's always great to have a live crowd. Of course, we're going to see a lot more at stake now. We talk about the holistically of kind of LPL. Like, of course, we did not have the MSI Championship in 2020, but now we do. And with RNG and EDG, both previous MSI champions from 2015 and, of course, 2018, this is an opportunity for them to kind of get back onto the international stage. It's been a while since we've seen realistically kind of, strong performances from either of these teams, and that you can tell they're hungry to get back to that upper echelon of excellence.
Yeah, and I think both these teams are going to be hungry in the game as well, because I'm looking at these jungle routes right now, and both Wei and Tarzan opted for just the solo clears, both starting on the Raptors, and this is to give full control of this bottom side to their bot lanes, because Light and Lwandy definitely want to be hitting level 2 first, and same when it comes to Gala and Ming. There's going to be so little that separates this bottom lane that like one false move could swing this lane in either team's favor.
Well, Pheromancy dropped down, crashed down. The level 2 should be in favor of RNG. You can see they've already got a couple of minions stacked up, and LNG will need to respect that. Something that people tend to forget is that in level 2, the Tristana has a hell of a lot of burst. Just randomly, out of nowhere, the Tristana just feels like she just gets so much. And then it just dies down for a little bit until she gets about 2.5, 3 items. And then she comes back and becomes a late game monster with her passive giving her the extra range. So you got to respect it. You got to be careful with the priority they've garnered. Ming able to push forward and see exactly where this jungle pathing is going, so they have a pretty good idea where this Graves is going to be in the next 30-40 seconds.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Gala and Ming will just try and continue this pressure. I like that they're getting this deep ward, because Gala and Ming will just be looking to shove in pretty much all the live long day. Try and get some of these turret plates, abuse the fact that Samira will be stuck underneath their tower, get some pop shots. And Samira, when she's behind, is not a champion that has a very fun time. So as long as Gala and Ming aren't giving these resources across to Light, he shouldn't be able to snowball as we are talking about in the last few games. However, when we look across at RNG's top side of the map, Wei is still going to be able to play pretty heavily towards Xiaohu and towards Cryin. Cryin as well should have good control over this mid lane, so will give a lot of chances for Wei to try and interact with that top side of the map.
Well, Tarzan thought about maybe finding himself. Ale, though. Ale gets first blooded, but the flash burn by Xiaohu, he will die. He still gets first blood, so it's a 1-for-1 trade at the end of the day, but Summoner blown down the top side.
Yeah, at least, look, Summoner blown for Xiaohu could be punished by Tarzan, but does get the kill. He has denied a lot of CS in this top lane to Ale as well. You can see a 12 CS lead up there, and Wei, now in the opponent's side of the jungle, but I don't know how much support he has.
Doesn't have a huge amount just yet. They will have Icon TPing in, but I feel like Wei with double buffs on him should be pretty safe. The blue buff has yet to be taken here by Tarzan. A curious little jungle route being put in here by the LNG jungler. As Wei looks to try and get himself a reset. He's about a camp ahead as he just steal those raptors, but no real kind of discernible difference. The big difference is where we can see in the top side, where it's about double, if not more, for, you know, in favor of Xiaohu. Needs to be a little careful, though, that he doesn't get too full of himself, as without a flash, the Lucian only has the one dash, so needs to be very, very careful.
Yeah, I'm coming back to your point on the Tarzan jungle path thing. I'm really surprised by it, because one of the reasons that you like to get your blue buff down early is so when you give that second blue buff handoff, it means that then you're kind of doing it at the same time as the opponent, and you're not ended up in the situation where Cryin ends up with a blue buff and can just shove these waves super hard, get a bunch of priority in this mid lane. But right now, because that blue buff is only just being cleared, it's going to be another 5 minutes before this is back up on the map. And as Icon, you're going to be pretty lackluster when it comes towards trying to keep up with the wave clear of Cryin if Wei ends up handing over this blue buff on this second rotation.
Well, Lwandy roaming up towards this top side. They will know this on the side of RNG, as they did have a ward in that tri-brush, but he hasn't just left just yet. Now, Lwandy is here, and now he knows where the Lucian is. Does he have a ward? Yes, he does. And he's going to be able to knock him up, keep him there, get the stun down. Double stun, perfectly executed here. Great roam from Lwandy.
And this is one of the reasons why, like, Lwandy is not the best support in the league, but Lwandy is my favorite support in the league, because this guy is so clever when it comes to how he moves around the map, realizing, hey, look, we have the advantage on the bot lane where we've actually got that first shove in. We're going to be the ones that come back first. Fantastic. I've got a couple of seconds now where I can move up towards this top lane. You can see that Light is completely safe because Gala and Ming are just backing. And by the time Light is in any sort of danger, Lwandy will be back on this bottom side.
Well, Lwandy is here just to try and make sure that Wei does not get away with any of these camp steals. He's going to pick himself up the scuttle on the top side, though, as he gets a nice little prize for himself. But this is the little problems you pick when you get something like a Lucian. You need to snowball. You need to play aggressive. That's just how the matchup goes. You're not winning if you're not massively ahead, because a tank is just far more useful and, you know, better set up to deal with the team fights later on in the game. So you need to have that extra gold advantage. But Ale still has flash in the Mega Gnar form, and Wei is snuck himself over. Graves is here, though, so this could be a bit of a turn. Both junglers level 6. As we see now, Ale getting jumped forward on top of. Ale will go and get culling all the way on top of his back. He will be forced to flash. He will not get the swirl seed over the wall, and that is just a summoner burn. Nicely done there by RNG, keeping the pressure on top side.
I love how Wei is playing around the priority that he has from Xiaohu and Cryin. Like, off of the 2-minute reset of those Raptors, he's just been invading consistently. Now he's playing around this top side where Ale, unfortunately, the Wei pushing out away from him, thought he'd have to help with Tarzan, but actually ends up needing to burn the flash to save himself. So this is just Wei being really clever in his movement, but Xiaohu might get caught out here by Tarzan.
Ooh, okay, aggressive flash in. Tarzan is feeling it. He does not get the full damage down from his Q, and he has got the collateral damage, but he knows it is not enough to kill him. Burns his own summoner and then forces Xiaohu to take a back that I feel like he was already going to take.
Yeah, I think if that Q had connected, Tarzan would have been able to fire off the ult and finish off Xiaohu, but unfortunately, Xiaohu got that sidestep in, wasn't able to get Xiaohu low enough, so Tarzan just ends up blowing a summoner spell, and as he said, Xiaohu, he wanted to back anyway. Like, he just shoved in the wave, it was the perfect time, he's able to walk back up, so a bit of a win there for the RNG top laner.
See if they're able to make anything of it. This bot lane, despite us saying it was the battle of the bot, has been exceptionally quiet, as Lwandy and Ming have just been leaving their AD carries to it. And when AD carries are left to their own devices, they tend to just shake hands, farm it up, say, right, I'll see you at 3 items, sir. Thank you for participating.
Yeah, and it kind of feels a little bit like that, but this is the kind of the gripe I've had with LNG a little bit, is that I feel like their bot lane is the place to play around. Like, Light and Lwandy are so damn strong when they get ahead, but you can see it even in this game that Tarzan ends up prioritizing his top side of the map a lot, trying to shore up the weaknesses that Ale sometimes has in his laning phase. Now, it does work. Like, you can see Ale has 2 kills. He's looking pretty good in this top lane, which was a pretty terrible matchup. But then he potentially get caught. I was a little bit worried for him there.
I actually
but I feel
love
like
that play.
Yeah, it's a really smart play, but I would have preferred to see Tarzan playing a little bit more towards bot side. Ale, though, still not out of the woods yet, as Ming is waiting up here.
I actually feel like this is something now I've noticed a couple of times in the most recent of histories, if you will, with mid laners. They had no vision of where the support or the jungler was, but he was still feeling confident enough to go into the enemy jungle, knock the blast cone down, and get into the the topside bush. It was only when Cryin left mid lane that immediately alarm bells were going off for Ale. It was like, oh well, mid laner's not there. We better get ourselves set up for some kind of a play off the other side of the map because Ale, you need to back up. It feels like little things like that when you're trying to almost overforce something. It takes away maybe a kill or something like that. Like I feel like Wei and Ming could have definitely snuck into there, maybe gotten a kill and the Rift Herald. It's very, very minor things, but just something I've noticed as we've hit 100 and odd games. I think it's about, what are we on? I can't even remember how many games we've played so far this season. Not even series games as such, but it's been a marathon.
I mean, to be honest, Kai'Sa right now is at 109 games, so we've played more than that anyway.
I think we're down to 190.
Yeah, it's insane. But either way, like coming back to your point, is I think the bigger thing there was that RNG were going towards Rift Herald, and with Ming missing off the map, Ale was like, all right, we're going to back off and take the dragon instead.
Oh, we're going to see a bot lane skirmish here. No level 6 for Lwandy. He's forced to flash away, but he has not got the health bar to keep him alive against the flash and ult from Gala. And that is a nice little, capitalization there. And with the jungler of LNG just kind of in no man's land, there's no real pressure to put down bot side, which means that this top lane is pretty much free. This is a hell of a lot of gold going into the pockets of this Lucian.
And this means that LNG can't really make any sort of side lane plays because, hey, you'd love to try and make a play on the bottom side, but because Lwandy's just gone down, RNG get the top lane turret, they get the gold on the bottom side as well, and Azir's just free to shove in the mid. He knows that he's going to be safe as well, so there's no real answer that can come from LNG off that play. So really, really nice call from RNG, and this is just RNG punishing the fact that Lwandy, with all the roaming that had gone on in the early stages of the game, he hadn't actually picked up a lot of the CS. So Ming, with the level advantage, sets up Gala beautifully, and now this Tristana with the Kraken Slayer is starting to look kind of scary for the remainder of this game. Like, even though you usually think of Tristana of that, 3-item spike, she can still do a lot of work with that Kraken Slayer in these mid-game team fights.
Yeah, you gotta keep tabs on her. They did try to dragon, so there is still that small little positive, I suppose. But you can see now RNG, they've almost done zero emphasis on bot lane. This is exactly what we were talking about, how this is a very different RNG team to what it was, back when Uzi was on the roster. Back when Uzi was around, it was feed the puppy. Get the puppy is not, is big breakfast, is big dinner, and he will keep you going in the game. Right now, it's all about Xiaohu, and it's all about getting priority towards these solo lanes. Whereas Ming and Gala, like you mentioned, they make their own advantages. They are the ones that come out with the 2v2s, and we expect them to do it almost at this stage. That's how common it happens.
This is a very different style of composition, I will say, from LNG, though, than what we typically expect. Like, LNG, when I've looked at their comps in the past, have always been very, very simple to execute. They've been basically just these easy front-to-back team fights. They don't really go for anything funky. It's just a case of, let's make this as simple as possible. With this composition, though, although they can front-to-back team fight, like, Ryze isn't really the best in those situations. He's just going to be lagging behind when it comes to trying to keep in to these fights. He's not going to be able... He's relatively short range, so trying to get on towards Gala, Cryin, even Xiaohu is going to be really, really tough. So they're going to end up playing off into these side lanes, but with how quickly RNG are snowballing the map and getting these towers down, side lane control is going to be pretty difficult for LNG to get to grips with, which means when it comes towards team fights, if RNG haven't been able to be separated by LNG and are able to just group up with these fights, it's going to be pretty easy for RNG to walk over LNG.
Well, Ming using the sweeper there to full effect. They have exact knowledge of where Lwandy was, and they can be very, very respectful of how they walk up towards this red buff to defend it, as while they're also stealing a red buff on their own. So you can see the cross-map plays, RNG with the mindfulness to be able to defend jungle camps and also keep them for themselves, while also taking away camps from LNG.
Ming, we'll just face Tarzan. LNG are here to support.
Yeah, can get over the wall, though. Jump over with the Ferromancy and the crash down, so he has plenty of escapability. We do see the Immortal Shield Bow picked up here for Light, so he's finally got that big kind of first item for the Samira in those big team fights, which I imagine we might see in about a minute's time, unless RNG really feel like they can get any more big advantages around the map. No real plates, only the one in mid lane taken here for LNG, whereas you look at a full tower and kind of like a scattering of plates around. There's a lot of that kind of gold lead isn't in any of the CS leads. It's purely from the towers.
And we talked about this already, right? RNG just having this super strong team, or super strong lanes that they can look to punish through. Gala and Ming, again, getting advantages for themselves in that bot lane, not relying on Wei, whereas Wei was able to move that attention again towards Xiaohu in the top lane and allow them to take that tower. So this is basically like classic RNG. Like, there's nothing surprising about what RNG have done, but that's what makes it even worse, is just how damn good they are at doing this style of play.
Just because you know what someone's going to do doesn't necessarily mean you can counter it. That's the big thing I've noticed in League of Legends, specifically with a team like RNG. Like, even back when they were, you know, feeding the puppy, putting all the resources into Uzi. You knew they were going to put the resources into Uzi, but you couldn't stop it. It wasn't a possibility that you could just go, ah, yeah, that's how we beat them, because it's a lot harder to execute on than that, because RNG don't allow you to just stop it.
RNG now moving in towards this dragon. Ale actually cancelled his recall on the top side of the map. Yeah.
Oh, they've caught out the Tristana. Gala almost taken down. The collateral damage was not enough, but the smoke screen is. And they now get the kill onto Gala. So Gala caught out, did not quite have his flash just up yet. The dragon is going down. It will be taken by RNG, so a kill for an objective. LNG, bit of a kind of a botched play, realistically. You invest quite a lot to kill the AD carry. Yes, it's important, but the objective is what you're kind of using that pick to get.
I actually don't mind the play too much from LNG, because honestly, these dragons are not really something they're worried about. As we said, they want to try and play side lanes. It's not like they're trying to get a whole bunch of these dragons to force RNG into fight. So getting pick and more gold into their side laners is a pretty nice boon, and it does mean they should be able to get some control on the map to maybe take these turrets, but unfortunately it looks like they're all just going to back away, so won't quite be able to. And Ale didn't full commit to pushing in that turret on the top side, which was what I thought the call was going to be. Like, let's just forego the dragon, make this play bot side, get the top lane turret for Ale, but not able to turn that into objective is kind of the bigger loss, I'll say, for LNG here. Whereas for RNG, they got the dragon, they'll start to rack these up, and they can look to try and find opportunities to fight at these next objectives.
Well, they've got themselves the second Rift Herald of the game to keep the pressure up for themselves. They'd be able to put that down for the next dragon fight, or even before that if they do find themselves a pick or two to try and just create more space, more darkness around this map for LNG. And we've eked up to about a 1,500 gold lead, a little bit more, maybe just under about 2,000, and yep, they're going to drop it at midnight. So this is going to open up the map. These little kind of small advantages you get, they didn't even need the Rift Herald. They're actually going to be able to keep pushing onto this and maybe get themselves a tier 2. Culling comes out to pepper down Lwandy, who's almost dead. They have to use the Blade Whirl to protect the support. And that's 2 turrets, and RNG ain't stopping. They're going to keep going.
Yeah, they're going to get one more charge. I mean, Lwandy's out of the play. You've still got our Icon in that bottom lane. Like, that's the inhibitor turret gone.
Why was that play? What is the... Yes, well done. You got an outer turret. I'm very proud of you, Icon. But you've lost an inhibitor turret. One bad fight now could actually spell the end of the game. That's how important that is to the team. You've lost an inhibitor turret at 17 minutes. That's huge.
It does at least open up the map a little bit for LNG, and I can kind of see where they're coming from. I think, like, I do agree, disaster, but I don't think they can actually defend. Like, with Lwandy down, and with the item points that they're at, like, they just don't really teamfight particularly well. And for LNG now, they need to start getting creative. Like, they need to find ways to use this realm warp to try and find picks, using the opportunities of like dark vision like this to see if they can find a few members. But you can see RNG, they know that's the game plan. They know that that's the only way LNG can try and come back into this right now. So, well done by Wei and Xiaohu to kind of read the play. And this is something that RNG have been so exceptional at, is like just understanding the game state right now. Like, what do we need to do to win? Cool. But also, what are our opponents going to try and do to get back into it? And it's almost every single time RNG are reading their opponents like a book.
Just to kind of add caveat to that as well, or sorry, credibility to that, it is a thing that, you know, the best teams not only know how to play their composition very well, but they also know how to play your composition very well. And it becomes such a difficult thing to do if you're saying, look, oh yeah, we got the better team fighter in topside, we got the better, you know, split pusher in mid, we got the Samira to be able to like burn down people. It's like, but if you're not able to get that team fight going for you, then you're just going to end yourself behind. It's 5 turrets before 19 minutes in favor of RNG. this is honestly such a good early game. The gold lead doesn't really tell the whole story. They're 3,000 ahead, but they have all the pressure. They can push in mid, turn to the dragon in a minute 20 seconds, and there's nothing that LNG can do because they're still waiting for those big item power points.
And that's the problem, especially when it comes towards the Xiaohu LA matchup. It's just Xiaohu knows he's ahead, and he's just trying to hammer that lead home. And especially when you have Wei, who's basically just playing the bodyguard for him in a lot of these situations, it means that even if Tarzan comes down, the 2v2 is still RNG favored. So they need to find ways, as LNG, as we said, to make creative picks, find opportunities to catch RNG unaware. But unfortunately for them, just RNG aren't giving them that chance. LNG don't have the vision control that they need to try and make these picks happen. They don't really have the members in place because RNG are hard shoving these waves, forcing LNG to separate, and they just can't find these opportunities for numbers advantages.
Look at the map right now. There is literally 2 wards at the moment. One on the top bush and one on the bottom bush for the side of LNG versus a load of litterings of kind of wards, which they honestly don't even need because they have all of their tier 1 turrets apart from the bot lane one up. There's just so much extra room of safety for RNG where they can retreat back into their own jungle, they can retreat back into a lane. As long as they're not hovering towards bot side, which they aren't, they should be fine. Now, with 10 seconds until this Infernal Drake does spawn, it's only second Drake for either of these teams. But RNG, they can push in the wave because, again, they have that priority. But LNG, they might try and force a Baron off of trade.
Yeah, they could try to, but I think what I'd prefer to see them do is see if they can, like, separate out RNG, as we talked about, and then try and use this Realm Warp to get in on top of them. Unfortunately for them, though, LA, not even close to going Mega as the engage comes through.
There is the engage straight onto Light, and that is the Samira dead and buried. We're going to see the Lilting Lullaby down onto the 2 carries. Tarzan forced to flash away. Ming does fall to Lwandy as the culling comes in. This is all about the double AD carries here for RNG. They use the Realm Warp here from LNG to get themselves out, but all they did was lose their support. They take out the bot lane of LNG, and they can turn straight onto the Baron.
Yeah, there's not a hope that LNG can do anything. I mean, we said already, like, RNG's team fighting is so strong with this composition, and we see it just used to great effect there.
Oh, we'll see now. Baron down to about 3,000 HP. Ale is here, as is Icon. He did TP, and that's a huge amount of damage here from Tarzan and Icon. They're turning this one around. No steal available, but can he take away all the buffs? It looks like he will be able to. RNG bite off too much, and they cannot stomach it. LNG punish.
And it's just a mixed call from RNG. Too many members tried to commit towards the Baron, and not enough to actually killing LNG as they come in. Now, LNG, not only do they deny that Baron, but they get so much needed gold back in their favor. And if they can get some of these tower for themselves, it's going to mean the world to this squad, who now can operate around these long side lanes, shove in waves far more effectively. But it looks like this mid lane will be defended, and maybe Icon can get this top tower.
This is the Tarzan-Icon combination that we were talking about from the start of this play. This is what we expected to see from LNG. Icon has been a mainstay mid laner of the LPL for so damn long. He kind of fluctuates between top 5 and bottom 5 depending on what team he was on, but has always been someone that we've always looked at. Yeah, or what day of the week. Yes, it is the LPL, I suppose. But for adding someone like Tarzan to be that rock just sees him up. And this is a great engage from RNG. They just know how to play this team fight, but they just overstep after it.
Yeah, and you can see the call here is like, right, we know that we've got no ultimate coming through anytime soon from Ale. He's not even close to Gnar, so they go for the all-in. And again, Wei has been so good with Ming in setting up these engages, but here they just need to turn for the fight. You can see Wei kind of stays in the back of the pit. Gala is still on towards Baron as well, but the fight has been long lost, and there's nowhere for RNG to hide once Icon and Tarzan move into the pit like that.
Yeah, it was always almost... Oh, I have to stop myself there. As we can see, Lilting Lullaby comes down onto 2. It is 2 of the more tanky members, though. As Lwandy pulling over the side. As you can see, LNG, they're looking for fights now. They feel like they're the ones in the advantage here. The Lilting Lullaby was expended. They will lose this turret. They still have 1 Baron buff available to them, as they are still pushing that one in. I believe Ming was just about spawned just as the Baron was taken down by RNG. And they will take themselves to tier 2. So now up to 6 turrets, but... Again, it's back to that Baron fight just very, very quickly. It did feel like RNG, like I said, a very split call, and it was only ever a 2v2. It was never a 2v4 because it was a 2v2. Okay, we killed those 2. Now we move on to the next 2. Here comes a new challenger. So RNG need to kind of shore up that little bit of a miscommunication, like you said, if they want to try and take this one game. But the scaling isn't exactly in LNG's favor. They have to try and look for these fights. Yes, the Ryze is huge, but Azir, Tristana, and the Lucian on any neutral objective will melt it.
Yeah, and I mean, look, you can see how difficult these fights are for LNG, right? They try to make that play in the bottom side. They're like, right, let's check the boxes. Net Mega Gnar available? Right. Ultimate available for Andy? Yes. Flashes? Yes. All right, let's go. And they take 27 bullets from Xiaohu to the face, and they're like, right, we need to rethink this strategy, Captain. And this is what's going to happen over and over again. You've got so much range on RNG's side with the Tristana, with the Azir, with this Lucian culling. You can't really just run head first into RNG. They just kind of wait and blast you the entire time you're chasing them. They need to, again, either find these DP plays to get flank wards in positions, or you're looking at this round warp for Icon to try and pincer RNG and stop them from being able to run away.
Well, you got 2 items pretty much across the board for everybody of a side of LNG, and as well, of course, for the side of RNG. We'll say Wei hasn't had the most of successes with his ganks or his engages, sitting on 0, 1, and 0. Almost got the makings of his second item, so we'll want to be getting that as soon as possible. But I don't know if he's going to have it before this inevitable Drake fight in 30 seconds. RNG will be able to put themselves onto Soul Point with it, and LNG will be able to equal up the dragons and continue out the stalls. That is the pressure you can see, but RNG could also just turn down towards this mid lane. They have options. The earlier work they did 7 minutes ago is now showing the fruits of its labor, because it's now putting pressure on LNG to try and just make a split call.
And LNG are very split here.
Oh, they're very split, but they find out one, and the Gnar ult into the wall does find out Ming. And there's the Inferno trigger. They try to get the Azir ult to try and get him into a better position, but Light gets himself out. He will eventually fall, but Lucian is dead. Wei's forced to flash away. LNG get 3 for 1, and they are continuing to push back RNG.
And RNG, they're going to end up losing out this fight. Wade takes 1, but Tarzan will shoot down the deer where it stands, and LNG do pick up the fight. And it's a beautiful turnaround from LNG. RNG just not respecting the fact that if LNG can get on top of them, LNG are incredibly potent, but RNG walking into the jungle, don't spot Lwandy in the bush, and by the time they do, it's too little too late, and Lwandy's a bull in a China shop.
I just look at this, they see him, they know he's there, they know he's there! That is unacceptable. I'm sorry, that is not allowed at the highest level of this play. You saw the Alistar go in, and you still get caught out by him.
Yeah, but it was never a good idea to move into that point anyway, because the second you're in these chokes, it becomes very difficult for you to back away. Like, they needed to just start up the dragon, make sure that they just playing towards where their vision line is, draw that. You can see the line of the sand right there in your mini-map, where it's just split down right where that dragon is. Okay, cool, we'll take left-hand side as RNG. LNG, you've got to try and come into us, and it becomes so much easier to line up cullings and sleeps from Wei, and Ming being able to play front line. Like, that is their perfect spot. But when they move in towards the LNG, when they're almost spread out in a line defense, essentially, it's very easy for LNG to pick them off and find the big engage.
And I might be sounding like I'm being very, very harsh on RNG, because I am, because I expect so much better from this team. That is something that we just haven't seen, a mistake that we haven't really seen RNG do at all this season. Something such a, you know, as simple as being able to call and say where the support is. Now with the Baron just being able to spawn, you can see with these items being picked up here, you got 3 items onto the Ryze. You've almost got an infinity edge onto the Graves. Your early game advantage that you had with the Lucian doesn't exist anymore, and now the extra little bit of advantage you had with the towers that are standing are now gone. There's the first layer of towers broken down by LNG. So they drop down the Streamer's legacy for RNG, and now they can turn towards the Baron, maybe look for a fight here.
Yeah. You still got to watch out for a couple of the checkboxes though, right? Because Lwandy, no flash. Ale, no flash, no Mega Gnar around. So right now, the team fighting from LNG is definitely lackluster. So they need to hang on and find the right moment to strike. You can see the resets coming through from Light as well. He wants to try and finish off, or not from Light, sorry, from Lwandy there. He wants to try and finish off some more items to get himself into a better position. So RNG are free to push in here, get control of the area, and it's up to LNG now with Ale nearly pushing Mega Gnar to now get that vision control back.
No flash on Ale, no flash on Lwandy, but important to notice, Gala does not have flash either. Now, they start the Baron and they immediately back away, but you can see how quick they are able to burn down that objective if they are given even 5 or 6 seconds longer on that. They actually take that objective. LNG cannot allow that vision to be going dark for them. They need to know exactly what's going on in that pit, otherwise that objective is gone to them.
Yeah, but you can see RNG's game plan, right? It's trying to draw LNG in as Ale is meant to go Mega. Okay, cool. Let's see if we can poke him, get him to pop Mega Gnar, back away, and then turn straight back towards the objective. Now with Ale on this bottom side again, they're going to try and start up this objective because that TP is going to take a long time to come in.
It's too late. It's so quick. This is exactly what we're talking about. Hexflash trying to go over the wall, but again, LNG, you left the objective. It's exactly what we called would happen. RNG, melt this. You have 280 carries and an Azir. There's no way you can contest that if you're not already there.
Plus Wei as well, right? I mean, literally everyone on this team does such a good job. Like, you can see the build there from Wei with the Demonic Embrace as well as the Liandry's Anguish. He hurts. This isn't a Moonstone Renewer build coming through from Wei. He is all up in that burn and burned away that Baron right quick. And LNG now are in a pickle because you can't really play through these side lanes with RNG having the Baron buff. It gives them a lot of control as well to get priority for this next dragon. You can see them already rushing up this mid lane, shoving in these waves so they can get vision and control of this dragon area.
Well, the Baron as well just gives you a hell of a lot extra range, and the only real wave clear you have is with Icon. The Ryze has a lot of, kind of just inherent wave clear, but without him in a lane, if you're able to split up these fights, if you're able to split up these minions, pushing in either of the lanes, it's very difficult for the side of LNG to really defend against that. And it looks like the call from LNG is going to be give over the Drake. We don't really have position to try and fight this one, and let's just try and get Icon and Ale some extra farm.
Okay, so again, we're in this situation where, okay, Icon's bit pushing, I like this, but he does need to make sure that he's here for the likes of the Dragon and potentially defend this. But this is again on RNG to make sure they are playing at range. If they let LNG get these engages off with the 2 flashes up for Ale and for Lwandy, if they can get these nice flank positions coming through for Icon, this is where RNG are going to struggle. But as you can see, RNG doing their due diligence here. As we talked about, pushing in these waves, getting vision control in this jungle, and not giving LNG the opportunity to contest for the dragon.
Yeah, and I actually got Icon's teleport as well, because Icon recognizing he did not have time to recall. He needed the quicker cast time, so he needed to go straight to that turret. They get the global out of him. They take the dragon. They're now on Soul Point, Infernal Soul Point as well. So looking at their composition, that is the perfect dragon to be able to continue to melt down LNG health bars. But LNG are no slouches either. 3 items now for the top lane, mid lane, the jungle, and the AD carry. They are looking very, very strong across the board, just to try and negate any big kind of, team fight that might be coming their way.
Yeah, and, I mean, you've got your Azir on 3 items, and your Tristana on 3 items, the last Whisper coming through. Like, Gala and Cryin are huge. They will just dominate a team fight, and if you're anyone except from Ale, you're going to get one-shot by essentially this duo combo from Cryin and Gala. So you need to be very careful with LNG as to how you're taking these fights, otherwise you're just doomed.
Well, we probably won't see anything happening for another 2.5 minutes. Everyone just going to pick up the sideways. Baron buff is going to be taken off of the side of RNG in the next 5 seconds or so. And there's no real reason for anyone to get caught. It's going to be a trade of vision back and forth. Who has wards where? Who can clear them when? That's pretty much the call right now.
There's not really going to be too much happening, as he said. I mean, it will give it a little bit of an opportunity for LNG to try and get these waves back in order. Like, as we talked about, Xiaohu's been doing a great job of pushing this top side, and they've had a lot of control with that Baron to get these towers in, but certainly for LNG now, this is your moment to try and right the ship. You got 2 minutes to get these waves in order, and then look to contest this Baron.
This is a big game, honestly. It feels like a momentum game for LNG. You're able to come out, take down RNG, you then have a chance in the series. Let's be real, when we were coming into this, we didn't really give a huge amount of, I suppose, credence to the idea that LNG could take down RNG, but they are going toe-to-toe, and they really are making RNG think, really making RNG, put the time into this composition. And don't get me wrong, RNG's composition is more slightly difficult, to kind of, to execute on, in my opinion. It's far easier for LNG just to look for a team fight and go from there. But for RNG, you're 6 kills down, yet you still have a 2.5, 3,000 gold lead. Like, that's kind of insane.
Yeah, but that's why, like, that's how RNG plays these map states, right? I mean, if you look at the advantages they have in top and bot and the towers, like, this is how RNG get their leads. But the biggest worry for me, honestly, is every time RNG walk into the opponent's jungle. Like, I'm watching LNG, I'm like, they're gonna run into Lwandy, Ali's gonna be waiting in the bush. And you can even see how tense RNG are, because they're walking as this 5-man unit every time they go to get vision, because of how fearful they are of running into anyone on LNG.
Yep, Gnar was hit there by Ale, but the rest of RNG backed themselves away. They pushed in top, they pushed in. Oh, Cryin though. The Rell Morph is here, and Icon is there as well, so they're trying to see if they can take out this Azir. The rest of the team though, this is a fight. There's 3 people there, and there's 4 people in mid. Not able to try and go for something just yet. You can see there the Shurima's Legacy perfectly able to defend the RNG mid laner. Almost got himself taken out. Keeps himself safe. And the rest of the RNG, now knowing there's 2 people topside, they can push into this jungle. They can steal themselves away a red buff. And again and again, this is just kind of boiling over to critical mass, really, where you're kind of saying, like, if any of these sides get 20 seconds or less probably onto the Baron or a Dragon, it's gone. There's no contestation. There is no team fight. The objective is dead.
I like the attempt from LNG on that bot side, though. Like we said, get creative with Realm Warp, and it nearly worked out, right? They were nearly able to get on towards Cryin. Unfortunately, Cryin had kind of backed away and already set up a Sun Disc for himself, so he was safe. But that could have gone very, very differently if Cryin had been a little bit further forward. Now, though, LNG trying to get control of this mid wave. They already have a top wave that's pushing in on top of LNG, though, so they still haven't got full control over this area, and RNG, with the Baron up, are looking to contest.
Yeah, Ale will only have Mega for a little while longer. Force of Nature will keep him nice and healthy, though, against the poke from Wei. Banshee spell has been popped onto Wei, so he should be relatively safe. Lwandy, though, force the flash away. He goes in aggressively, though, and Xiaohu finds a pick. RNG get exactly what they wanted, and now they can turn to this objective, completely melt it down before this dragon even spawns.
And they do it so fast, LNG can't even respawn, right? They're not able to get on towards this mid tower. Now LNG will move over towards the dragon, but you are in a 4 versus 5 still for the Infernal Soul for RNG.
Yeah, you have to fight here, LNG. You cannot let them get that soul. If you do, there's just no real way of you coming back, or rather it becomes exceptionally more difficult. Both sides now swapping their sides of the map as Ale and the rest of LNG find themselves now here. Gnar soon to be hit here, but look how quick this goes down. I don't think LNG can go in for it. That is Dragon Soul for RNG. Now, do they look for the fight? They can keep the rest of LNG at arm's length. Icon forced the flash, even with the Banshee's Veil. He knows that he is dead there if he gets caught. RNG get the pick, and then RNG get everything else.
Yeah, and RNG's pockets are looking fat right now. They've just got so much gold off of the kills, the Baron, the Dragon, everything else is coming in. And you can already see Lord Dominic's now picked up for Gala. Working, it looks like, towards a final GA or maybe a Bloodthirster just as a defensive item. Cryin as well is working towards that Void Staff. Like, when these final items are complete, you got no hope. Xiaohu, though, with Cryin in tow.
Yeah, they're going to see now LNG trying to get a bit of a mismatch here. They're jumping in. Icon has TP'd on the backside, though. Ale taking a lot of punishment. He will go Mega just in time. He will not get the Gnar ult down, though. There's a great Shurima shuffle into the Emperor's Divide, and Cryan's able to keep himself alive. This is all RNG all the time. LNG, I respect the effort. You had to go for something. You thought you had an advantage, and you can see here Light. Oh, they have full vision of him. They know exactly where he is, and he will go down. And that is RNG with the full clean ace pushing in towards this bot side. They've got Baron, they've got Infernal Soul, they've got everything. They're going to end the game.
Oh, it's so sad. LNG, they tried to make the picks, they tried to make the play, and look, it was their best option in this scenario. Like, there's no way you're winning anymore, but unfortunately the desperation play was just desperation as RNG will close out this game.
Very tense and tight game one for majority of the late game. I gotta feel like, yes, RNG had the early advantages, but LNG were able to keep them honest, and RNG will now take the advantage going into game two. And LNG, that's a tough one to swallow. I feel like a couple of small little mistakes, literally one catch on Lwandy changed the entire scope of the game.
Yeah, and look, that's kind of the way that this goes. Unfortunately, Lwandy does get caught out, but he has to position forward aggressively like that if he wants any hope of being able to engage on towards RNG. Because as you can see, like, if you're just going to stand like 5 opposite 5, you just get poked out. Cryin has too much damage, Gala has too much range, Xiaohu's throwing out a culling at you, and your front line just isn't beefy enough to tank that up. It's not like you've got like a Scion who basically takes it as a back scratcher. It's Gnar who, especially in mini form, just isn't suited to these types of engagements. So unfortunately for them, RNG, when it came towards the draft, actually outsmarted LNG when they saw the short range composition that LNG had drafted.
Yeah, able to abuse and completely take advantage of everything that was against LNG and RNG, though. A couple of small mistakes, couple of small missteps that definitely kept LNG in, in the running for the game. It became more of a execution thing rather than an actual, like, quote-unquote scaling or anything like that, because at the end of the day, you can see RNG did not want a team fight at all because they knew that they were just at a very big disadvantage, especially against something against like a Baron or a Dragon fight. But for LNG, like you said, the short-range nature of their comp, they just could never get on top of anybody, and that's exactly what we set up coming into this once we saw picks and bans, was that if RNG could keep LNG at arm's length, it's just so difficult, if not impossible, for LNG to get anything going for them.
Yeah, and look, it's reflected in the damage graph there, right? You can see pretty much everyone on RNG above their counterpart, if not nearly double their counterpart. And we said, look, for Light, it's going to be impossible for him to get into team fights. Same when you look at Tarzan and Icon. These are not the carry stats that you want right now. For LNG, the snowball that they're hoping to find really didn't work out when stronger lanes were drafted across the board for RNG, and then they've got the range advantage coming into team fights.
And for LNG, what do you want to see them maybe change up? Do you want to see them maybe go for something slightly different? Because this is kind of, the comp they built was more of something that we've honestly seen throughout the whole split right now. It's a very tried and tested standard composition. Do you think they need to change anything, or do you feel like it was more of an execution issue than a draft issue?
I think it's a bit of both. For the draft, like we talked about, that early Gnar lock-in, I don't think was right. I think it just gives too much away, especially if you draft something like a Gnar and a Samira. It becomes very apparent that, oh, okay, well, this is going to be some sort of short-range composition. Like, you're not going to go towards, especially with the Graves in the jungle, something like you're not going to go towards the Nidalee. You're not going to, because the Graves is already locked in. You're not going to be taking, so the Zoe was banned away. You haven't got a huge amount of long-range carries locked in, especially with the Jace banned away as well. Like, all the long-range carries that can kind of contend with what RNG had are already taken off the table. So you need to kind of hide your cards a little bit better, and that's why we rarely see the likes of the Gnar locked in early. Instead, we kind of go towards more stock standard, like a jungle pick, and then you go towards something like a support or an AD carry. Like, these are kind of your bog standard picks at the moment, and then you can flesh out a composition when you get a bit of a better idea as to what the opponent is doing.
Well, we'll see if LNG can bounce back after a game 1 loss, or will RNG be flying high